Coming down the train, I was thinking, has there ever been a more important FTA meeting than this one? And I suspect there hasn't been. We've been around a long time, but I think in terms of the importance of this meeting, as reflected by the number of people here, this is vital stuff. And I speak both in terms of being president of the FTA, but also on the board of a huge international transportation company. So with two hats, I address you this morning. I think we've shown enormous patience, I think, over the last couple of years. I think that's probably appropriate behaviour, because we don't underestimate the complexity of what the government is trying to achieve. It's a huge and complicated task. And, you know, for one, I'm rather glad I'm not involved directly in such an issue. So we are mindful and respectful of the fact that we're dealing with an incredibly complex situation here. And therefore our patience has been quite right, I think. Equally though, patience has an end. And I think we have recently been discussing with some major customers and within the FTA board itself that our patience is really wearing very, very thin. Because, you know, we need answers to questions or guidance which we're unable to give and to our customers and unable to give to the FTA members, of which there are 17,000. So we're put in a slightly difficult, a very difficult position because we're not quite sure what the future holds for us. And we have to get some decisions very, very quickly. And I'm rather hoping that over the course of today, we'll at least have a lot more clarity of what the future holds for our industry and for our customers than we have now. We want to generally remain helpful. I mean, I've been in all sorts of meetings at House of Commons, House of Lords, and Robin and I have met before and discussed these things. And yet I don't feel that we've been sufficiently listened to. Now that may be unfair, but it's the way I feel that the industry that I represent has not been sufficiently listened to. That's not to say it's been dismissed out of hand, but it's not been sufficiently listened to for any of the actions that we require, and the clarity that we deserve has been afforded to us. So, you know, I have to give some pretty tough messages at the beginning of this conference from the way I see things at this moment in time. We need some answers to some, you know, very, very direct questions, very challenging. I was, again, surprised with James that the people agenda was pretty low down in terms of priorities in this conference this morning. Interestingly, when I've met with 4 or 5 major customers in the last 2 weeks, it was number 1 on their agenda, but not in this room. Interestingly, it may be the demographic of the population here, but the people issue was one that was really at the forefront of what I talk. And I'm talking about consumer, I'm talking about automotive industries and technology. And the people issue and the lack of certainty around people was at the top of their agenda, not further on down. And so I think, James, we have to respect the voting, but equally from my reading of the situation, that's a more important issue than was reflected in the room at the time. So what will happen to the UK nationals? And for reasons that we won't spend hours going into this morning, you know, 43,000 of our heavy goods vehicle drivers out there are non-UK nationals. 43,000. That's around 13–14% of our workforce are non-UK nationals. About 100,000 of our warehouse staff, about 20%, are non-UK nationals. What will happen to them? What are the regulations around these people? What's going to happen to them in a couple of years' time, or even in less than a year's time? And I'm still not sure enough about that. I'm not sure enough. Will the UK driver qualifications be recognised? In the new world, will they be recognised? I sense we may be working down the wrong route. The hopelessly inadequate permit system for international transport is not a route, I don't believe, from where I sit. We have to find better ways of doing it. What does maximum facilitation actually really mean? And once we've understood what it really means, does it really exist? Obviously, from the tone of my question, I have doubts on both. I don't think max facilitation exists, and I don't think they have the systems out there to support it. Equally from that, what does frictionless trade actually mean? And you know, I hope through the debate today, we'll have a better understanding of what frictionless actually means and how we action it. So, I mean, a lot of really, really difficult questions for us to address, and you know, a couple more to ponder, I think, and we're going to hear from the Port of Dover shortly. Are they ready, and what are they ready for? Some of the questions that we need answering, hopefully today, or have some more clarity about today. We've all read the statistics, you know, they are slightly scary about the 17-mile queues, and you know, we can all do maths and work these things out. But what are the solutions to the fact that customs declarations and clearances are going to have to be made? And we all have heard that, you know, we're going to move from 50 million declarations to over 300 million post our withdrawal from the EU. Who's going to do it? Who's going to do those declarations? Certainly, you know, if I put my industry hat on, you know, we're looking to double our workforce within the company I'm representing to be able to cope with it. And we're not sure that's going to be anywhere enough. But other companies are going to be doing the same thing. And I worry about, you know, with the border force. I don't see any real action in terms of dealing what might be coming along. We've heard that we may need 2,000 new customs guards. Well, if that's the case, I haven't seen any new ones lately. And we need to deal with that. And interestingly, I spend an awful lot of my time actually based in Amsterdam. The Dutch seem to be acting pretty swiftly about this, more than we might be on this side of the channel. So, you know, I throw it out there. So, you know, I'm not going to spend any more time, but I just wanted to sort of set the scene. And, you know, I represent an industry that's really good and resilient, extremely professional, and can just about deal with anything that's thrown at it, providing we know what it is. And at the moment, you know, my big dilemma is I don't know what it is. You know, I can do scenario planning like anybody. And we have logisticians working out what might be the consequences. Do we need more warehouses? Are the just-in-time systems going to be operable? And we're asking all of those questions in a whole sea of uncertainty. So today, you know, I'm going to sit and listen to the discussion, and I'm looking for clarity and some answers. So at the end of it, I'm able to give guidance to my company, but also guidance to the FTA members as to what the future might hold. So with that, and I know it's a pretty tough sort of message I'm giving, but the time for being awfully pleasant and polite was probably passed some months ago. So I want us to have a pretty tough discussion and debate this morning. So with that, not actually a glowing introduction, I'm afraid, Robin, but let me hand over to Robin Walker MP, Parliamentary Under Secretary of State for DEXA. You're very welcome, and we're really looking forward to what you have to say. Thank you.